that actually the sugar industry pointed fingers at the salt industry because they didn't want the attention. So let's rather make it their fault and, and somehow indoctrinate all the doctors that salt's bad for you. Because in fact, salt is the third most important to the body after oxygen and water. That's how important it is.
Welcome to Far Out with Faust, everybody. I am Faust Chicho, and today I'm excited and delighted to be with this incredible guest who I'm about to introduce to you. Thanks for bearing with me while I'm transitioning into my new recording space. We're talking about something today that probably to most people doesn't seem that far out. In fact, it's so basic that most of us barely even think about it, but it's absolutely far out. It's absolutely essential to life itself on this planet. We've all heard that our bodies are mostly made up of water. And that's true, but it's not the whole story. Our bodies are made up of salt water. The truth is we cannot live without salt. And my guest today is going to explain how the most important nutrient to our health also became the most misaligned and misunderstood. Just think about this for a second. For generations now, the medical industrial complex has been trying to convince us that salt is one of the main causes for all our health woes. Why would they do that? For those of you who have been following me for a long time, you can guess at the answer to that question. Samantha's journey to becoming a salt guru began with a 120-kilometer walk through the Namib desert in South Africa. Along the way, she was inspired to create her company, Oryx Desert Salt. It's found only in the remote and pristine Kalahari Desert in southern Africa. While the salt is amazing and delicious, this is not a sponsored show. You're going to see how passionate Samantha is about sharing her knowledge of the salt industry and how that industry was co-opted and the narrative was twisted. You're not going to believe where that salt that you see on almost every table and almost every salt shaker in America actually comes from. We're going to delve into the many benefits of eating salt, the proper salt. I promise you, you're going to be entertained and you're going to learn a few things that you're not going to soon forget. Just a reminder before we get started, please let me know what you think of the show in the comments. I love hearing from you. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. This far out content is often algorithmically suppressed, so we need all the help we can get spreading the word and growing our subscribership. Much love to you guys. Thank you so much for joining me and being patient with me as I transition into my new recording space. And as always, question the answers, my friends. Much love. Samantha, thank you so much for beaming in. It's a pleasure to have you.
So awesome to be here. Thank you for the invite.
A friend of mine met Samantha at the biohacking conference in Orlando a few weeks ago, which I was not able to attend this year, but I heard great things about Samantha, and then I got in touch with her, and so I'm always interested in what can improve overall health. Simple things that we can implement that are not cost prohibitive, that can really make a difference in how we function every day. Optimizing our function, and I think it's important because with health comes greater ease and happiness, right? It's very hard to
definitely
live your best life when you are struggling in survival mode. So I want to talk to Samantha about this awesome discovery she made and how did you, first of all, tell me about what is this statement? You packed your bags on your dining room table and before this incredible. Where are you from originally?
Hello everyone, I'm from Cape Town, South Africa, on the very tippy tip of the continent. Literally the Atlantic and the Indian Ocean are on either side of me. It's an incredible place. if you have not yet visited Cape Town, South Africa, just slip it right up to the top of your cities to go to. It is special. There is so much beauty. I'm in awe every day of where I live. So yeah, that's a side note. So I did the trip. I did this incredible adventure in Namibia, and I had these close encounters with the Oryx. So that was one of those highlight moments that will always be with me, and one of the stories that I do love telling, and it doesn't feel like it was 23 years ago. And then an associate was looking for a product that had a spiritual quality, and he met the owner of the salt pan, which is in the vast Kalahari Desert of South Africa. And the Kalahari Desert, to give you an image, is 900,000 square kilometers, which is 1.5 times the size of Texas. So it's from Cape Town.
The whole that's all desert.
So I guess semi-desert and desert, yes.
Okay.
So from Cape Town, and I recently went up to the salt pans 2 months ago to go film a documentary, and it was absolutely incredible. And I drove from Cape Town. It took us about 15 hours in total. Wow. And an hour outside of Cape Town, it's already pretty remote, actually. There isn't a lot. So for 8 hours of driving, you're driving through semi-desert, and then the last 2 hours there is absolutely nothing but sand. So it's a beauty of remoteness and of simplicity, where you're not bombarded by imagery. It's just the stillness. It's incredible. Yeah. And so this associate was selling the product just to one country, and I had just finished. There was this financial crash, and doing an emotional, spiritual upliftment. Oh yeah, that's true. So 20,000 drums, transformation through celebration, was bringing the spirit back of drumming back into rural Africa, rural South Africa. Okay. And then corporates weren't funding feel-good, emotionally, spiritually uplifting projects. They wanted a return on investment. And so I was looking for something to do, and because he wanted to send it overseas, he didn't want to create a product for South Africa. And I was like, and I started using it, and I'm like, hang a moment, this is the salt special.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel fair. It's not fair to send it overseas, and South Africans don't have the rights, to their own product. And so that was where my journey started. So when I say packing bags, what I actually mean, so grinders and bags. We have one product, which unfortunately is not in the US, but it's a cotton bag that is handmade by projects in the township. So women's community upliftment projects, so feeding families. And in the olden days, we always used to get our rice and our flour and our coffee and sugar and everything in cotton bags.
Yeah.
So it's got this incredibly authentic feel to it. So I was packing bags, cotton bags, and grinders on my dining room table.
I see.
And that was how I started. In fact, I ordered, I think so we print directly onto the bottle. And I think I ordered 200 bottles to be printed, whereas now we order, I think, 250,000 or so at a time.
Nice.
So it's been 12 years. And I think I've always had a business drive, and I've always had a big vision. So 20,000 drums was my drumming project, and I wanted 20,000 children in the stadium, all drumming at the same time.
Right.
And now I want the whole world to be hooked onto Oryx Desert Salt because of this pristine, beautiful place that it comes from. And the experience that I had going back up to the salt pan is that it's not just salt. It is salt that is imbued and vibed with all of the elements. So there's a 5,000 hectare salt pan, which would be, probably maybe a 20-minute drive, let's say, or a 10-minute drive, down a road at a fairly decent speed. So that's how long it is. So you wouldn't see somebody standing on the other side. And they discovered underground a 55 million ton underground salt lake. So they needed to test whether this beautiful salt pan was a viable source to produce salt from. And so they had to test. So this is the closest town is 250 kilometers away. So, they really needed to know that this was going to work, because they had to even build a road off to the salt pan. And that was going to be a huge expense. And when they did the testing and the discovery of this underground salt lake, they also discovered that it is fed by 3 subterranean streams that flow through ancient rock strata that have been tested at 280 million years old.
Wow.
So here we have these beautiful rivers of that's not seawater. So under all of the continents are these underground rivers. So it flows through this ancient, under the African continent. It picks up the salts and the sodium chloride and the minerals and the trace elements from this ancient rock strata, converges in the lake, and we draw it up onto the salt pan. And when we do, this 120% saturated salt water has not been touched by human hands. It is absolutely pure. And then it lies in the pan for 4 weeks in summer at 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It crystallizes. So 4 weeks is a lunar cycle. So it's kind of got lunar energy, and it's got star energy, and it's got 120 degree Fahrenheit hot African sun energy and the wind. And then we harvest it and we pack it into big bags, because the salt in the grinder, the only process it goes through is that it goes through a 2 to 4 millimeter sieve, to just make sure that we've got all similar grain sizes to go through the grinder. And that's this, it's got the spaciousness and the beauty of the Kalahari Desert. And when I was there only 2 days, and this was planned 5 months in advance. And it felt like a gift. It was a gift from the gods. Wow. We had an electrical thunderstorm, and it was absolutely phenomenal. There was lightning dropping down, around us, and we could see the sheet of rain. And then it was probably 20 minutes, and it passed, and there were double rainbows, and it was just, that could never have been put into the production schedule. We need an African thunderstorm
in the middle of a desert. I mean, that's remarkable. I can't wait to see some pictures.
Awesome. And if you go onto our website, so Oryx, Oryx Desert, 1S, DESERT, salt.com. We've actually just recently uploaded the video, cool. And you can get a beautiful sense of where it comes from. So Oryx, so just to let the listeners know, Oryx is a beautiful gazelle, a beautiful huge buck, and it's got these now I need to convert into feet. 3 to 4 to maybe 5 feet long, thin, pointy horns. Yeah. So one of our hashtags is spot the horns. Yes. So if you go into Whole Foods and you go to the salt shelf, you will spot the horns. It's this beautiful masked creature that for real actually has a heart on the top of its forehead. So when I did the 120 kilometer, the 75-mile walk through the desert, I had close encounters to them, and that was just incredible to be face to face. Like 9 feet from this huge, beautiful it's like a masked creature, and so they became the inspiration for the logo when I wanted to create a product some years later.
That's a great inspiration. They're a gorgeous animal. I'm thinking of the right one. I believe I am. I think they live in more than one part of Africa, and there's more than one kind of oryx, right? I mean,
That's so true.
yeah.
Absolutely. So there is a southern oryx, and then there's a northern oryx. In fact, it's the national animal for Qatar, and it's in
Okay.
Oman and Saudi Arabia, and that's the scimitar oryx. And
Yeah.
what I discovered also was just a random, beautiful, another phenomenon in nature, is that the oryx can go years or sometimes their lives without drinking water, but they can't go weeks without licking salt.
That's
So the
right.
salt with the minerals and trace elements, and because what salt's essential function is to help the body to stay hydrated. And so they need the salt to stay hydrated. But the next miracle is that their hair is hygroscopic. And so they actually absorb the moisture and the dew at nighttime in the desert, and they hydrate hypodermically, which
Wow.
is, I mean,
That's incredible.
incredible. It is.
Yeah. As soon I was thinking of a gemsbuck as soon as you
Yes.
described it, and but I was like,
Yes.
no, but there's gemsbuck is a type of oryx. I'm just
No,
realizing, right?
so Gemsbok, so actually you pronounce it
Oh, is
Gemsbok.
it hemsbuck? Okay.
Gemsbok
Hemsbuck.
is the Afrikaans. So in South Africa, we've got English and Afrikaans speaking. It's the Afrikaans name.
Okay.
Oryx, Oryx, is the Latin name.
Okay.
For some reason, I always loved. I think it's also got a beautiful sound to it, Oryx.
It does.
So yeah,
It always fascinates me how vital animals instinctually understand that salt is to life. I mean, and they will travel, they will migrate, they will go out of their way because their life depends on it to find the right salt. Human beings seem to we love watching nature videos, and we can even see a nature video where we're watching whether it be the gorillas or the elephants travel all this distance for sometimes at the very least just for salt, just to find that key ingredient to their life, so they can keep going and then find the water that they need.
yeah.
Which
And
happens often.
they won't eat table salt. Table salt is not salt.
No,
Table
it's not.
salt is demineralized. It's got chemicals in it. And those chemicals, those anti-caking and free flow chemicals, are to stop salt from absorbing moisture. And that's what its essential nature is. That is what it is. Our body needs it for. So we're stopping it from doing its job. And that is sacrilege. That table salt should not be allowed on shelf. It is not a food product.
It's a crime, is what it is. And
it is a crime. It absolutely. In my next life, I'm gonna take on the government. but just going back to what you said around animals looking for salt, that is how Himalayan salt was discovered when they were trekking through the mountains. So it's actually not from the Himalayas; it's from Pakistan. But Pakistani salt doesn't have the same exotic ringtone, and
not quite as exotic, no.
Quite. So it's 200 kilometers, which is about, I think, 175 miles from the Himalayas. And the trekkers saw that the horses went and started licking the rocks. And so they were fascinated. What are they doing? And that was how they discovered Himalayan salt. So they sensed it. So you're so spot on in that. And farmers know. Farmers have to give their cattle and their animals salt licks. It's essential to their survival. And we've somehow disconnected ourselves and forgotten how important it is for us.
And generally ignorant, at least in America, as far as what that stuff that they put in packages and call salt is here. What you can find at like every diner, most restaurants, well, in general, what that stuff is that they're just dumping onto their food that gives it a saltier taste, and why it's not real salt, and it's not good for you. There's no, whenever this kind of thing happens, particularly in America. It's very quiet. Obviously they don't want people to be educated about their health in general. So salt's a big part of that. So everything that's been done has been kept very quiet. They just feel the public
So I had
is ignorant anyway.
I had a realization actually recently, and Zach Bush, I'm sure you know Dr. Zach Bush.
Of course, yeah.
He sort of planted the seed that so table salt came out around the Industrial Revolution. So salt is a medium, and you need it for your brain function. You actually need it to think. You need the synapses to connect with one another,
Yes.
and they need that salty medium in order to do so. Your digestion needs proper salt medium. So by giving people table salt, it actually dulls your senses. Now, the whole Industrial Revolution was to make people machines and robots and not think and just do. So it almost played into kind of just not allowing us to think and wake up. And they also, salt is in, so PVC, so it's kind of like a plastic. C stands for chloride. So they were making industrial salt, because that's what table salt is. It's industrialized, highly processed salt. They were making it for industry. And now because they've got these huge volumes, some dimwit thought, oh, well, let's put it in a bottle and call it table salt. And so that's really,
they did that with everything that they could. That, they took the fluoride, which was a byproduct waste of a pesticide factories and runoffs, and they were killing other people's, wherever this stuff would go, it was killing crops and harming animals. And so what did they do? They didn't figure out a proper way to get rid of it. They figured out a proper way to sell it. And so they put it in toothpaste, and they said it was good for your teeth.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's not good for your teeth. It's actually bad for your teeth. And you use too much fluoride, and it will cause mottling and cause your teeth to get black spots,
Yeah. And I saw actually something recently where on some of the packaging, it actually says, do not swallow.
No,
if you
and
swallow,
all of it is
contact the poison, your local poison center. That's toothpaste we're putting into our mouths and circulating and definitely swallowing elements of it. So yeah,
and it's absorbed. You can't put something in your mouth and not have it be absorbed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody who's done LSD can tell you that firsthand. I mean, maybe that wasn't the best example, but you know what I'm saying.
Did you know there's a bizarre fact? Did you know that if you were to put garlic on the soles of your feet, like with olive oil, so that it connects, that your breath will smell like garlic? Apparently,
no,
I haven't tested within 20 minutes. So that's how you actually absorb from hypodermically. You absorb, yeah.
I know we do that to a degree. We have this organ that we call our skin. We forget it's a true organ. It's brilliant, and the evolution of it is just incredible.
Yeah.
And all the ways it functions is every bit as remarkable as the Oryx and how it absorbs. So cool.
So just back to Himalayan salt. So I want to thank Himalayan salt. It was very essential. It almost feels for me that it had a place in consciousness. It woke people up. So especially because it was pink, all of the ladies, oh, this is so pretty. This is pink. Yeah, let's have that. It doesn't matter that it's mineral rich. It just looks pretty.
Yeah. Isn't it not really it's actually pink, right? Didn't they make it that color?
No. Well,
maybe some of the.
Yeah. No, apparently it's oxidized iron. So it's a So no, it is genuinely pink. I mean, I think there is some fraud in the Himalayan space, and some of it is colored. You are right. But without, we just were given this table salt and grew up and didn't think about it, and our salt all came from the sea. And now suddenly, oh wow, there's this Himalayan or this mountain salt, and it's pink, and then it created an awareness, and it opened up the opportunity for people to go, oh, there's salts from all around the world. There's beautiful black Hawaiian, and there's Iranian blue, and there's red Alea from Hawaii, and now there's desert salt. It's not so unusual there, because we know that actually, apparently there's salt in every single country in the world except for Belgium, and Belgium's a tiny little landlocked country. But salt is there because it's so essential for our survival. In fact, we're 70% saline solution. Our tears are salty.
Yeah.
Our blood, if we cut our finger and we lick the blood, our blood's salty, and we have to replace it with a mineral rich, unprocessed, unrefined. So thank you, Himalayan, for creating that awareness. But sadly, it's because it's an ancient solidified sea, it's not a renewable resource. It's not sustainable. So we don't know if there's 150 or 200 years left, but there won't be 7 generations down the line.
Right.
And the other shocking fact, I'm sorry to share, is that it's dynamited out because of the demand. So there is
they're
potentially
just blowing holes into a mountain, basically.
They are, and there will be a big gaping hole.
Another scar.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll probably find something interesting at some point.
They very well might do. Quite.
And then they'll just keep it quiet. But they figure out how to sell it, So the difference between the Himalayan resource and Oryx, can you break that down so that I understand a little better?
So I think that
like in not only in the sourcing, but like they're dynamiting the mountain to get to the Himalayan salt. And obviously now it's extremely popular around the world. So they're doing it probably at a pretty scary pace. But what's the difference between that origin and Oryx?
So what I was so aware of, and I think there is a piece on the video, Oryx is this living, it's alive. With spring, I don't know if you've gone down the water rabbit hole, but just how much energy spring water has, how much aliveness it has versus bottled water or water that comes through a tap that goes through right angles and it dies at right angles, because there's nothing in nature that is right angles. So Oryx is this living, active lake of water that's flowing underground. And so for me, it's really supercharged and alive and activated and renewable, versus an ancient, which is amazing because it doesn't have the pollution, because we do need to go on to talking about sea salt just now. So it doesn't have the pollution that we obviously have now on the planet, because it's a 280 million year old solidified sea. But it's, in a way, it's a dead source. Actually, it's not living. And because of the, it's got this blast, this dynamite energy in it. So it's lost its integrity, because in the beginning they were literally chopping it out the mountain, but now, but because of the demand, obviously they can't do that.
Right.
But it still had its place. And
certainly, yeah. It reminds me of like the difference between going down to the grocery store and buying an organic apple that was shipped from Chile in South America, and going to your backyard and picking an apple grown organically from a tree that you planted. It's like, what do you, if people understood the difference in the nutrients between the one that you bought at the grocery store and the one you just picked, they would be shocked, and I feel like that's a little bit what the difference between Oryx and the dynamite blasted, Himalayan salts that are being packaged in.
Yeah, and I grew up on homeopathy. I love homeopathy, and I've brought my son up on homeopathy, and it's for me, it's also a phenomenon. It's mind blowing, getting the essence of something and how the essence can just because it's energetics, isn't it? It's a vibration, and so that can then shift and create wellness by just taking.
Yeah.
So that's where the dynamite energy, and also the communities are getting paid $4 per ton. So, the Himalayan salt is imbibed with that to a degree, whereas, this living water and sitting in the beautiful desert underneath the sun, and we give a percentage back to the Kalahari sand communities, but the communities, the original sand Bushman tribes, used to roam these regions, the desert. This was their homeland. And so for me, it's even there's a beautiful book. It's called The Bushman Winter Has Come. And it's a beautiful anthropologist. And in fact, I actually ended up reading his book in his little coffee shop down, sort of on the other side of the mountain. And he lived with the Bushmen on and off for 30 years, but for 7 years where he wore a loincloth and went tracking with them. And they have a profound connection with the earth and a profound connection with their environment, to the point that Paul went hunting with the elder of this little community, and he told him that there was an ostrich around 13 kilometers, which must be 9 or 10 miles away. And he was like, what? Like, how do you know there's an ostrich, 9 miles away? You can't see it.
Yeah.
And they walked, and there was the ostrich.
Wow.
9 miles away. And the Bushman said that he could, Paul speaks 4 of the Kwikwe, the Bushman languages, and they feel it in their etheric bodies.
Wow.
And I spent 10 days up there with a beautiful community, and I sat with Ruby, who is apparently 107.
Wow.
And he mentioned talking with the wind, and he was actually known for his music. He had recorded some albums, his beautiful thumb harp and piano, but he preferred to just be in communion with the elements.
That's why he's so old.
So that's what it feels like Oryx Desert Salt embodies, is that too. And it's so hard to quantify it, but it's there. It's part of the ether. It's the spirit of the land where the salt comes from.
It's beautiful. I love that story, and I have a little bit of experience hunting, and it's just something so primal that happens between the conscious and the subconscious mind, and this incredible human technology that we are blessed to be able to play with, when you're in that state of the hunt, because unlike animals, we're sentient, and so we can think in ways that they can't, but it's just an incredible experience. And you need salt. It's the conductivity of it is essential for all facets of the all 50 trillion cells in your body need it, right? I mean, and that's why people
they're
who
made up of it. That's what they are.
That's right. They cannot communicate or function without it. The depletion of it will kill you. And
exactly.
So when you have, and that's why I'm excited to get some Oryx and bring it into my life, because I am well aware of how important salt is, and I'm always looking for the next best and purest thing. And of course, just like Zach Bush discovered when he created, I'm sorry, my dogs are, I don't know what they're barking at. He discovered when he went deep enough into these ancient soils, these incredible probiotics that I mean, these bacteria were untouched, and they were so robust.
Yeah.
Because they had not been, kind of tainted by industrial man.
Yeah.
And he thought, well, let's see what happens when we
Ah.
put these into the body. Well, lo and behold, they did incredible things to the gut lining of the body. Incredible things, like causing this almost super reaction, where everything kind of gets stronger and tighter the way it was meant to be. So crazy. And I feel like there's again, this product you've discovered has that same kind of potential.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has as these rivers flow through this underground. So the rivers are 100 to 300 feet in this ancient 280 million year old rock strata. So it is actually almost the same product, where the salt has an element of that. And also because, do you know Dr. Masaru Emoto's work? The beautiful, he takes the water crystals.
This and, Dr. Masaru?
Yeah.
I don't, wait, hold on. The one who showed us the beauty of these?
Ah.
I don't know if you can see
wow.
It. Yeah, I have a water crystal tattoo.
That's so beautiful. Okay, so then.
I like him a little bit. He's all right, I love him, yeah.
And so that's, for me, what Oryx Desert Salt has. It has the breath of the wind in it. It doesn't have anything. It has not been adulterated or contaminated or even energetically imprinted by humans. And that is quite incredible. And sadly, that is the complete opposite to our oceans.
Yeah.
So
let's get into that. Let's talk about the fact that, again,
are you ready?
Most people are completely oblivious, and not their fault necessarily, but this kind of science, when it comes out, is very well kept, under wraps. But if you've been living on the planet and health conscientious, then you are aware of, the microplastic problems that we are having, that are in just about every facet of our society, and therefore health. And so talk to me about this, and let's give people a little wake up call about most of these sea salts that they're happily dumping on their food.
So I think the biggest shock came for me at the biohacking conference. Kevin is a marine biologist, and they did some tests on some oysters recently. And do you know what they found? Opioids and contraceptives.
Oh my God. Wow.
So then I kind of think about how many Americans, how many people live in America, actually? Do you have any idea?
Well, 335 million.
Okay. So what percentage of them do you think are on antibiotics, prescription drugs, contraceptives, Prozac, antidepressants, hormone therapy, you name it?
Anyone? So at least one of those, I would say 90%.
Yeah.
At least one of those. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
A good 90% of 335 million people. Yeah.
So, and half of that which you take orally, any one of those, you end up peeing out,
right,
into the toilet, ends up in the rivers, ends up in the oceans,
into the rain.
And the oceans is a living body of water, and it moves. And the cruise liners alone dump 1 billion, I don't know if it's gallons or tons, I think it's tons of sewage, of effluent into the ocean annually.
I had no idea that there was that many cruise liners doing that. Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of shit in the oceans. Yeah. And even though the oceans are enormous, for me, again, from a homeopathic perspective, it's got it's filtered, that water in the oceans has a microscopic energetic quality of passing through humans and picking up resonance of,
not only that, but it's become a giant garbage bin for
Dumping ground.
everything humans think that they can quietly get rid of, and even the things that they think that they can, you know, just quietly put into the land. Almost all of these chemicals are water soluble, so they end up in the ground, they end up in the rivers, they end up in the ocean, then they end up in the rain, and you can rinse and repeat that cycle. That is why there's very little place on this planet left where you can go and do a true chemical sample of like the snow or the ground and not find the modern toxic, you know, pesticide infested trend of PFAs and forever molecules and just toxic waste. You know, the corporations that are creating these products, these plastic products and these huge brand names, the ones that are pushing the corporate climate, you know, you're responsible for your carbon. No, dude, you're the one responsible for the carbon problem. If there is a carbon problem, they're the ones that are doing the destruction and trying to pass the buck to
and
us.
taking responsibility.
It's so frustrating that people buy
and
into
it. And also, I think because I believe our essential nature, we're trusting beings.
Yeah.
So even like table salt, you know, it got put on shelf. And I believe there's a part of us that believes in truth and believes in the greater good. And so we wouldn't consider that somebody's putting a product on shelf or putting chemicals in our food that can harm us. It's almost, you know, it's a bit like this beautiful conversation with you and seeing you. I mean, there you are, like how many hours away from me? 6 hours, how many thousands of kilometers over a whole ocean. And we're having this conversation on Zoom and I'm not plugged in anywhere. Kind of like my brain can't quite figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
It's so bizarre and it's so shocking and it's so counter to the intelligence of nature, actually the intelligence of our bodies, that how could that be toxic? Like it wouldn't be our first thought. And so we've trusted all of these products on shelf and gone, oh, well, I'll buy that because it's on shelf. Somebody's offering it to me.
Right.
And yeah, so that's, and then of course,
you're right.
now it's in information overload. And so, but we do need to really get to a point where we are super aware. And actually this brings me to a beautiful point with the salt is that it's almost a seed of consciousness, because if you're going to Whole Foods or onto Amazon and deciding to choose Oryx and sprinkling this beautiful, you know, granules of African spirit and magic onto your food every day, there's a good chance that something's going to awaken. So what else do you have on your plate? You know, maybe salad and maybe some meat. Where does my meat come from? What is the source of my meat? So I believe because it's the smallest ingredient in any meal, but it's the most important, I feel that there's an awakening with it. If you're choosing that, you're going to start looking at and choosing the source of your other products and asking questions, which we need to do.
So I would go one step further and say that if you can infuse your 50 trillion cells with some of the purest, untainted salt on the planet, then those cells are going to be operating on a level that they hitherto have not been able to operate. And to me, that is like simple addition. That's just, that's common sense. That's not woo-woo, or that's not even a spiritual intuition from where I'm sitting. That's simply mathematical science, you know, from what I know about the body and what I understand about the body and what I know about modern day salts or bromine, whatever, you know, whatever's passing for salt on most people's table. And so that alone is going to give you, I think, a little bit more sparkle, you know, in your eye and in your energy levels, let alone make your food taste a heck of a lot better and your body healthier. Sometimes the body breaks down because it no longer has the capacity to take out the trash. You know, it stopped being able to keep up with everything. And a lot of times that is ATP and cellular function. And people are, people learn about water, but they don't learn enough. They start reverse osmosing their water, and they're not putting anything in it. And now they're drinking water their body can't even use to hydrate. And I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So do you know Dave Asprey? Thank you, Dave. And sorry for the noise. They're rolling up a massive big warehouse door. I don't know if you can hear it. But the smallest biohack, and that was how I discovered biohacking obviously through Dave, and him sharing that the smallest biohack is to put a pinch of Oryx Desert Salt or a pinch of good quality salt.
Yeah.
Definitely Oryx Desert Salt. There is no other salt. It's the future of salt. It is the salt into your water, because that creates a this liquid, the combination, this alchemy between water and the salt, that the body drinks it up and it helps with the hydration and hydrates the cells and even the intercellular fluid. With this perfect medium, but thank you. You expressed that in a way that I've never heard someone else get, and that was quite profound.
You're welcome. I mean, it just occurred to me, I love it. So I'm not going to tell everyone how old I am, because I'm aging backwards.
Nice.
So I started aging backwards right around the age of 40. So, I'm like, I'm, let's see, I'm 30, I'm going to be 36 soon. And, but I still love, I love doing everything I did when I was young, and I'm kind of wiser and able to do it more efficiently. And I'm doing things that I only dreamed of doing when I was young, and doing them at a pretty high level most of the time. And, so I know how important it is to replenish your body, as an athlete and someone who is always trying to push themselves, how key that is. And I'm sure that you've learned a lot about that as well. I was wondering if you wanted to. I mean, we've been talking about it. Everything we've been talking about also translates to, and athletes and people who work with athletes absolutely know this.
Definitely.
You need it.
And that's been such a beautiful discovery for me, actually, because last year for 10 years I've been, ranting almost to the foodies, because it actually does taste different as well. And I would love your audience, when you go and get yourself a bottle of Oryx Desert Salt, spot the horns, and grind some onto like if you were taking tequila onto your fist, and lick it, and then grind whatever other salt you have in your kitchen and taste that. And when anyone tastes Oryx, it's like, that's salty. And then they taste sea salt, or they taste any other salt. It's often sea salt. There's this body contraction, and the face kind of contorts and crimples up, and they're like, oh, that's salty. So there's even a difference in the taste, absolutely. So I've been sharing from a food perspective, and so last year I was at a show, and 3 days, and 30 conversations, and then one person I was sharing the story, and the guy was just so blasé. He was like, yeah, of course it's important. You need it for hydration. And I'm like, what? You know? How? And he's like, I'm a performance athlete. And I'm like, and there was this sense of absolute relief. And then 3 months later, I went to Dave's biohacking conference. And in 3 days, I had 160 exciting conversations with this beautiful tribe of people who all got it. It was just,
they know what's up.
I was on fire because everyone understood. And because I think, performance and endurance, you need to take more care of your body, because you're more embodied. You're using your body more as a function, and experiencing life through your body more than concentrating on your taste buds and what your food looks like. And And so it's almost like I've done a 180 degree, and
Yes.
that's my audience, because they understand it. And just kind of going back a couple of steps from what you were sharing, what amazed me always, before Oryx was in Whole Foods, I would get an email at least once or twice a week from people saying, I was gifted Oryx Desert Salt. Some friends went to South Africa, or I was there and I bought some, and I've used it all up. And where can I get some more? And I used to think, like, can you imagine how incredible this is, that somebody's writing from the other side of the planet asking for more salt,
Right. Yeah.
And I don't think they even knew why they wanted it. It was like the body going, yes, please, more of that,
Right. Right. Oh, I love that. It's true. We do think sometimes our bodies speak for us, and we find ourselves doing things. We're like, we're like on a mission to try to find, and think about it. For that person, salt in general is everywhere. They can go to they could go to a gas station and buy, really low quality, high processed salt, but they could also go to any grocery store and find something that resembles, quote, sea salt or Himalayan salt. And then yet they wrote you and they were like, I want that Oryx. I want that Oryx.
They went to the website. Oh, hello, I want more of yours from that, from the bottom tip of Africa. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Absolutely. I'm going to South Africa in January, I want to say. My dad loves Africa, and he's been going off and on his whole life, and his dream is to bring his grandkids, and so he's got us signed up and roped into this exciting kind of South African adventure. So I got to get like the itinerary. But absolutely, if I'm anywhere near you, we'll have to have dinner.
Well, you'll absolutely come to Cape Town. You can't. Please check your itinerary. You can't come to South Africa and not come to Cape Town.
Oh, I'm going to Cape Town, with or without them.
Exactly. No, you can't. You can't come to South Africa and not go to Cape Town.
Yes.
So, I'm so looking forward to see you in person.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool. So before we part ways, and I'm going to give you my address, but I don't know if I'm be able to wait to pick up at least a bottle of Oryx. So, but what's the biggest takeaway for our listeners from this interview? Not only about, this complete and utter nonsense that salt has gotten such a terrible rap about it, being a source of hypertension, blood pressure, weight gain, and all this nonsense. But I hope that we have stressed to them how important it is to your overall health function, and all that BS about it being, bad for your cholesterol and part of the reason why people gain weight. I use too much salt. That is really all fraud. It's all none of that is true. It's all fake science,
James de Nicolantonio, a cardiac researcher, for me, named it so well. He said the wrong white crystal got the bad rap. That actually the salt, the sugar industry pointed fingers at the salt industry because they didn't want the attention. So let's rather make it their fault and, and somehow indoctrinate all the doctors that salt's bad for you. Because in fact, salt is the third most important to the body after oxygen and water. That's how important it is. And not just any salt, just real, beautiful, pure, unadulterated salt. Oryx Desert Salt.
I love it. So let's tell everyone the website one more time so that they can check it out. And and you guys can
one more piece of information.
Please,
Sorry
please.
to chat over you.
Fine. You're good.
But our grinder has a ceramic mechanism. So you buy your grinder only once, and then you just keep refilling it and refilling it and refilling it and refilling it. So you're not throwing grinders into landfill or needing to be recycled. And 99% of other grinders on the shelf, and probably the grinder that you've got in your kitchen, has got a polycarb or a polycarbonate or a plastic grinder head.
Yeah.
So guess what? When you're grinding salt over your food, do you know what else you're grinding? You're grinding plastic too. And then you throw it away and you go buy another one and grind more plastic into your food. Please don't do that. So you only need to buy one grinder of Oryx salt. And we saved, I think, last year, like 500,000 bottles and heads from landfill or recycling. So it's, and actually, if you buy one grinder and 4 of the boxes, it costs you 50% than if you were to buy 11 other grinders with a plastic head.
Wow.
So it saves you cash. You're getting a quality salt, a quality grinder, and all in all, it's a win-win-win. So Oryx, Oryx, Desert, Desert, 1S, salt.com.
Awesome.
And we have a web shop, and it is in Whole Foods. It is on Amazon too, for convenience.
Nice.
And please feedback. I love hearing stories. In fact, Dr. Mark Carney, actually, he's called the Biohack Doc, and chatted to him, and he started using it last year's biohacking conference. And he said to me, I can really feel the difference. And I'm like,
wow.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Great to hear. Well,
yeah.
Thank you so much, Samantha. I look forward to having dinner with you and meeting you in person.
Me
hopefully,
too.
in a few months. And this has been great. I appreciate the education, and I love when a product that can easily make a difference, not only in how good your food tastes, but in your overall health, and that's totally affordable. I just wanted to, I'm thrilled to have you on, and I appreciate your time. I know everyone's busy, so thank you.
Thank you. This has been a beautiful sharing. I really appreciate
You're welcome.
letting your audience know about this very special, unique, one-of-a-kind salt.
Absolutely. And so we'll be in touch with you, and this is going to come out, and make sure that everyone can find your website and have links to check this out on our video description. And thank you so much again for your time. I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Yay!
Thanks, Samantha. Appreciate you.
Yeah, ciao. And I appreciate you too. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
You too.